You can't grow if you can't hire, period. Hey, it's Alze Calhoun with Coveted Consultant. Right now you're in the wall series, and so let's frame this wall again. So right now you're in situation A, and you're trying to get to situation B. And so situation A is where you think of yourself as an independent consultant or a coach or a freelancer, but somewhere in the kind of solopreneur world. But you're trying to get to situation B, which is some version of an agency, a company, a firm where you've hired some help and you have some support. And what you find is that along the way that you hit this wall, and things get really weird at this wall. You're trying to get over the hump, but this is a really complex place. Can't always see it through. So today, specifically, we are talking about the hiring part of that and the money that's trapped that you can't get because you're not thinking through how to hire well. Let's break it down. So I've been having a number of conversations lately, and they all hit this hiring thing from a variety of angles. So many that I actually had to write them down and make them clinical for myself so I can share them with you in a clinical way. So bear with me as we go through the stories. But let me give you the headline or the highlight in advance. This hiring blockage that you're feeling begins with you. Your lack of clarity on what you actually need from those you hire, your lack of confidence in the hiring process begins with you. And if you'll take that personal leadership challenge, you'll find that hiring is a whole lot easier. With that, let's get into the actual stories. This first story, we'll call it, Help Me Think About My Business. So we do that a lot inside the coaching program. We do that a lot here on the YouTube channel. We encourage healthier thoughts about the business, about your business. In particular, this lady that I was talking to, she has been a freelancer. She told me that she had been doing creative freelancing for a number of years, double-digit years. And she wanted to grow, she wanted to scale, she wanted to create more value inside the business and inside the marketplace. And part of that conversation was realizing that she couldn't do all the work herself and needed real support. But she never thought about that really. Like she never really thought about who she would hire or what exactly they would do. She was just very aware that she needed help. That part she was very clear about. But she never thought through who and what and how to get those people. So her scenario was about, again, she needed help thinking through her business. And that may be what you're thinking to yourself right now. That could be the question that's going through your mind right now is, man, I need someone to help me think through my business. And what I'm trying to do is kind of help you land that very intellectual idea. Really what we're trying to think through is specifically how I hire help. Who do I need to help me? What would I have them do? And how would I find that person? And that needs some structure. So your inquiry may be, I need someone to help me think about my business. That's a bit theoretical. More mechanically, I need an approach to hiring. Story number 2, we'll call this one, is there a blueprint for this? So this person that I was speaking with would call herself a freelancer, but she was aware of like the death by 1,000 cuts. Like she was very aware that she was responsible for growing the business, serving the clients, developing the strategy, creating all the landing pages, creating all the email sequences, creating all the videos, doing all the follow-up work, doing all the billing, doing all of the following up with past clients to try to get retainers. She was doing all the product development inside her business, all of it. And she was very aware, she was hyper aware of the stress of all of those things. And like, whoa, like whoa, it's just a lot on the brain. Right? And so in our dialogue, that's what she ended up verbalizing was, I don't have a plan or a blueprint. I want to grow. I want to grow this company and turn it, or grow this work that I'm doing with me and a couple of small little vendors. And I really want to function more like an agency, but I've got no blueprint. And that's what she was saying very specifically. She used the word blueprint. And that might be what you're using in your mind today, is you're asking, is there a blueprint for this? There's got to be a roadmap for this. There's got to be a plan for this. Isn't there a blueprint for this? And so I'm saying that there is. There's certainly a mechanical way of growing the business that does not involve you doing 1,000 things at once. It's an impossible task. So if that's your question, right? We're at work right now in this video. Is there a blueprint? Yes, there is. Story number 3, we'll call this one, I have HR issues, like human resources. So this gentleman is actually a friend of mine, and we've been discussing his transition for a while, just as friends, just, kind of over the course of time. But in his situation, he was a lawyer, or is a lawyer, right? And he had the good fortune, the opportunity to become partner in a law firm, right? Good for him. So my warning to him was, hey man, when you take over this law firm, you are no longer a lawyer. You are now a partner. And partners function differently than lawyers. As a partner, you're responsible for a brand new set of tasks in your business. And you've got to get aware of those tasks and get good at those tasks. And if you don't do those tasks, this law firm won't grow, it will die. You'll go in the opposite direction. And the toll that death takes on your life is unnecessary and incredibly painful. So that was a warning I made to him. I was like, listen, if you don't get this leadership thing right as you take over this or become partner in this firm, then the firm will die. And as it dies, the stress it puts on you and your family is it's just not fun. It's not cool. It's not a clever story. So we've been talking about that, and we've kind of gone through some iterations on that, over time. So now he's inside the program, and we're now doing some work. And here's one of the things he now is a partner in the firm, and they're doing fine work. But there is some efficiency he wants to see inside the firm. There are some people that he'd rather be more productive. There's some people who were productive before, and for some reason are no longer productive now. That's puzzling for him. It's not making sense to him. And it's caused a sense of frustration, because if you are a partner in a firm, you need to delegate tasks. And if you don't trust who you delegate to, it's a bad deal, right? For both parties. So he would frame that as an HR issue, as a human resource issue, right? So that may be what you're thinking in your mind right now, is I have an HR issue. I have a human resource issue. And there's some truth to that, classic human resources, but there are some things mechanically, structurally, that you can do individually inside the business to relieve that HR pressure. We don't have to make it an HR thing and make it really complex and legalistic, etc. We can simplify that. And that's what we're doing now. That's what he and I are doing together inside the coaching program now. But you might be thinking to yourself, I have an HR issue. How do I fix my HR issue? Well, there are ways through this, and we're working on it right now inside the video. All right. Story number 4 is, we'll call this one, I'll just sell something else. So there's a gentleman inside the coaching program right now who is smart guy, really, really smart guy. And he has been really good at helping clients through very complex software projects. And you want to talk about a guy who can do it. This guy can do it. He is talented in the kind of work that he does. But he's more or less done this work as a solo consultant. He's done the work more or less by himself. He gets some help with certain projects. But for the most part, the work is done by him, the strategy and the execution work. And he made some good money last year, more money than he had ever made really, before. He had kind of topped out. But he also realized that his stress also topped out, and that doesn't work for him anymore. So his transition is about, again, creating that company, that agency, that firm, and growing in that way. But here is the narrative or the story or the issue he brought to the coaching program. Is the way he would verbalize it was he would say that, Alzay, I want to sell strategy work. I'm good at strategy work, but clients don't want to buy strategy work. They just want someone to do it. And I would say on the face, you're right. That's pretty much true. But it's not because clients devalue strategy and prioritize execution. It's because at the end of the day, the client wants their preferred end result. So we got to think about it, and we got to do it to get to the end result. Like my result is not accomplished until we do both things. Okay, we thought about it. Thank you. Now who's going to do the work so we can get my result? So that's the issue. It's not devaluing either strategy or execution. It's appropriately valuing the preferred end result. But here's how he was thinking through that inside his own business. He had created what I would believe to be, or what I would call, a false narrative around strategy. So he had convinced himself that nobody wants to buy strategy work because people only want to buy execution work. Therefore, my company can't grow because we're good at doing strategy only. Here's a better conversation. We have to admit that strategy and execution are not going anywhere. Both are required. For him inside his company, he's good at the strategy stuff. He likes that part more. But we're going to have to confront what we're going to do about the execution. His company has to develop some sort of point of view around execution. We got to figure out how we help our clients execute. Maybe I do the work. Maybe my team does the work. Maybe my client does the work. Maybe my client's team does the work, or some other option. But someone's got to do the work in order for my client to get to their preferred end goal, in order for my client to get the solution. So the thing here for this client is we have to first break the false narrative. Clients, of course, buy strategy. They need a clear plan of action, but they also need execution along with it to make sure they get to where they actually want to be, so they can actually get their solution. So for this client in my coaching program, his job is, or his challenge is to make a decision internally. Get a point of view on how you're going to help facilitate execution. Maybe you do all the work still. That's your choice. Maybe you hire a team. That's your choice. Maybe you say, listen, we don't do any of the execution work, but we'll lead your team through it. Okay. Any of those are appropriate, but we can't avoid the execution. That's the part that's important here. You can't avoid it. You have to deal with it. And so in this decision, or in this point of view that he frames for his business, he has to decide how he's going to hire internally. So given our point of view as a company, what support does my company need to execute on that point of view? Maybe he hires other strategists who are also good at strategy and they work on those high-level ideas together. Maybe he hires a couple of support people. He still does the majority of the work, but then he just hires some support people to manage his calendar and the details and the billing, etc. Maybe he hires one core execution person who does the work, etc., etc. There are a lot of ways of thinking through this, but we can't avoid the execution, and we can't let our fear of hiring, we can't let our concern that others will drop the ball limit the growth of the company. Here's story number 5. We'll call this story, I hate hiring. So this story that I was told, it comes from someone who used to run a retail operation, right? So she was manager of a retail store, right? And every now and again, this is retail, right? This is good old fashioned sales work. So you got to hire salespeople all the time, right? And so she verbalized to me, I hate hiring. Now she's saying a couple of things when she says I hate hiring. One is just the sheer number of steps you got to go through when you hire someone new. You got to put out an ad, get a million resumes, screen the people, bring them in for interviews, go through all the song and dance. And these are salespeople, right? So, they kind of fudge the truth a little bit. So you got to sift through all the stories that they tell you. And then you hire people and eventually, right, 40% of them fall out, 60% of them fall out, right? And so just the process of hiring, not exciting to her. I totally get that. But in addition, she expressed a concern about, I didn't have a thing to hire them on. I didn't have a platform or a process to train them in. Because as a company, we would change how we do things all the time, right? However the wind blows, whatever we thought would make us more money, our owner would change the rules. So even if she got through the hiring process, there's still the practicality of training the person you've hired. And if the rules keep changing, then you can't train well. So no wonder everybody was falling out, right? No wonder no one could stay. You never knew what success looked like. Have you done this one? So the narrative you may be saying to yourself right now is just flat out, I hate hiring. For all the reasons that she was describing to me. I hate hiring, I don't want to do it. But there's a way of thinking through this more cleanly, more efficiently, so you can make good decisions. Let's conclude. Now, the concept I offer you here is going to be pretty simple, and it's going to sound really good to your ears. Doing it has some nuances, but here's the simple conclusion. You need more clarity on exactly what you expect from those you hire. You need precise clarity. Now, intellectually, not a problem. But getting that precise is a lot harder than it sounds. But here's a core fundamental that we flex on this side that I think is beneficial to you. This is why we productize. This is why it's so important to turn your service into a tangible product someone can buy. Because when you've productized it, you've boxed it all up very neat and clean and easy. And so now it's got these organized steps. You know what you've sold, the client knows what they bought. So that makes things easy to explain to new clients. Yes. But that same ease is now available to your employees. So when you hire virtual people or a part-time person or a full-time person, now you can explain to them what we do, how it rolls out, and what you expect from them at each step of that equation. Until you productize, you'll always have this challenge. You'll always have people not following through. You'll always have a fear of hiring well. You'll always have trouble with your hiring process. And there's a lot of bad ways you can go about solving for this problem. You can go buy 100 more software tools and listen to a lot of more hiring and training and interviewing advice. But there's some core strategic elements that you got to put in place. And one of those core elements is that awesome productized service. What you find is what you tell clients and when you sell that service to them is almost the exact same thing that you tell employees when you ask them to delegate. It's almost the exact same conversation. So the better you get at explaining to clients exactly what they get and how it works, the better you'll be at explaining to employees exactly what you need from them and how that should work, and holding them accountable to that standard. There's a way out of this thing. There is a blueprint, there is a roadmap, but it requires you to level up.